today's video, we're going to be talking about improvising on the piano. And if you're new or returning to my channel, my name is Jordan Evans. I'm a full-time piano teacher and musician. What I was just playing was just improvising. Improvising is where we're just totally making something up. We have an idea of what we want to do in our heads, but we're not playing off sheet music. We're just kind of creating it. And it's really not that hard at all. And once you kind of get the hang of it, it's one of the most fun things to do on the piano. And this video is a beginner's guide to improvising, but improvising in itself is actually kind of an advanced idea. So this is a video for people who are beginning to improvise, but not necessarily beginner piano players. So there are a couple prereqs. Some of those being having a really solid understanding of what chords are on the piano. So just knowing like what a C major chord is, for instance, or an F major chord. You need to have an idea of what the chords are, which is actually, if you don't and you want to improvise, it's really not that bad. Just go look up any video or even a chord chart with major chords on it, and you can learn them within a couple days. Having a good understanding of time in music. What I mean by time is not just our time signatures, but how that feels inside us. So say I'm playing in 4/4, knowing when my beat changes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, etc. Having a really solid sense of rhythm internally. That could be 6/8 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or any number of other time signatures, but keeping a solid sense of time while we're improvising is really important for ourselves and also for the listener to know what we're doing. And then most importantly, a willingness to be creative. When you're improvising, for the most part, there is no right, there's no wrong. It's whatever you want it to be. And along with that, not being afraid of making mistakes. When we improvise, I mean, don't be afraid to get weird with it. I mean, there's no right, there's no wrong, it's really whatever you want it to be. And what's really cool about improvising, through doing that, through making mistakes, through trying different things out, you start to hear oh, I might like this. Oh, this sounds nice. And there are things that objectively sound nice, and there are things that objectively sound bad. But through doing that, you can kind of create your own musical style through things that you like and things you dislike. All right, and before we get into the actual improvising, I just want to talk about when should we improvise? What's the importance of it? Why is this a skill that we need? So first off, when composing. I uploaded a video maybe a week ago about me composing a piece of music in real time. And if you notice, for the first 5 minutes, all I was doing was just coming up with different ideas until I don't remember what it was that I wrote, but basically when I compose music, and all composers do this, for the first 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour or two, all we're gonna do is sit here and improvise until we hear something that we like, or, that's cool, maybe I can use a bit of that. So through improvising, composers find ideas that they like. The other time piano players especially use this is with accompanying other musicians. So if I'm given a piece of music, a lot of times it's gonna be a lead sheet or a chord chart. So if you guys are familiar with chord charts, it's just gonna say like G, C, F, D minor, but it doesn't tell you what to play. You have to decide how you want to play that. That example, if I was just a C, 2, 3, 4, G, 3, I think I said an F next, 2, 3, and then the D minor, etc. But we have to see those chords and improvise off what we're doing in a way that adds a lot of value to whoever the singer is or the lead instrumentalist. And now we're going to start improvising. I recommend, if your piano's nearby or in the other room, go sit at it. Throughout this video, I want you to be trying these things out. So pause the video, try them out on your piano as we're doing it in real time. The first thing we're gonna do is I'm just gonna give you guys what we call a chord progression. Very, very common chord progression, and I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible. We're just gonna start with a C major chord. If you're not familiar with it, it's just C, E, G. Those are the only 3 notes you're gonna use, and you can use them in any order you want. Typically, we'll just put an octave in the left hand, and maybe just play, octave in the left hand, and you can just play a triad above it. So we'll just keep it that simple for right now. Do it for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect. The next chord we're gonna play is an F major. And the notes of that, if you're not sure, are F, A, C. 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next chord is A minor, which is A, C, E. A, C, E. Nice. The last one we're gonna play is a G major, which is G, B, D. Cool. Playing this chord progression. 1, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, A minor. 2, 3, 4, G, 3, 4, end on the C. All right, pause the video, get really comfortable playing through this progression. All right, now we're gonna start embellishing this progression, which is gonna be improvising. You do whatever you want. So the first thing, probably the most easiest, is just playing what we just played, but the notes that you play up here, maybe just put them in different orders. And this is kind of like creating a melody, but we're only gonna use chord tones. And the definition of a chord tone is just the tones that are immediately in this triad that we're using. So we have C, E, G to use. And the cool thing about this is they all sound good together. You really can't play a wrong note. So we can just do, whoops, I'm gonna keep it simple in the left hand. Go to the A minor. Sweet. So that was super simple. Let's talk about the left hand. We can do what's called power chords. All we're doing is taking the fifth of the chord and putting it right here with finger 2. So for C, if you look at the fifth, it's G. So we're just adding a G right in there. For the F, it's gonna be a C. For the A minor, it's gonna be an E. For the G, it's gonna be a D. And what's really cool about that pattern specifically is you can just arpeggiate it. And A minor, back to the G. And this is kind of the start of left-hand arpeggios. The more advanced, and this is kind of the beginning of left-hand arpeggios. As you get more into it, you can add runs to it. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, one of my favorite ways to do this is adding in the ninth, which you can just think of as the note above where we started. So C, D, and then ending on the third. And F, G, A. It doesn't really work for minor chords as well. It works really good for major, so if I was to make that A, it sounds better with the major chord. And then the G. Yeah, so that's just an example of what our left hand might be able to do. And then in the right hand, up to this point, I've been keeping this in root position, which means I just have C on the bottom. But the three notes, C, E, G, you can put them in any order at all. So it could be E, G, C, or G, C, E. So let's go ahead and give that a try. Throwing all that together now, getting a little tougher. So already sounds 10 times better. Pause the video right here, practice those things, make sure you have a good grasp of what we've talked about so far before we move on. And now I'm gonna talk about creating a melody in the right hand. A melody, in the most basic terms, is just kind of what you sing along to. So when you hear a song, in pop music, it's gonna be just whatever the singer's doing. We sing along, but sometimes the melody's not so apparent because there's no vocalist. So you can hear, Beethoven's Fifth. That's the melody. So just using that as an idea, what are we gonna do to create our melody? So for this exercise, I like to put the chords in the left hand and then in the right hand, just play notes. We're in the key of C, which means we can just use any white note. And all the notes sound good, but there's maybe 2 exceptions that don't always sound good. So going through the progression, I'm just gonna try and make a melody, just keeping the chords really simple in the left hand. So you guys can see how easy that was to create a melody. And a couple tricks are knowing which notes will sound good with your chord. One of the biggest secrets that I learned is called chasing the third. So if I'm playing a C chord, the third is the E. And the third always sounds beautiful with a chord. So if I go to my next chord is the F, the third of an F is an A. Sounds nice. Go to the A minor, the third is a C. Oh, sounds awesome. And then the G, we have a B. So if you guys noticed, I would always kind of end my phrase on that third or the one, because those sound the nicest. So the one would just be C. very safe. F to the A to the G. But using one or the other is kind of boring, so let's mix them up. So for C, let's start on the tonic, which is C. 2, 3. Maybe we'll go to the. Let's go to the F here. C to the F. Here, let's go to the third, so back to C. And now we'll go to the B. Cool. And another thing to note is adding in passing tones. So say for this piece, I'm on C, and I know for the next chord I want to go to F. I might just add those in between. So 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. For this next one, I want to go back to C, remember? So we might just walk back down. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So for that, I was on C and I knew I wanted to go to B. There's nowhere I can walk, so I just went up and back down. The two most common ways of doing this, say we're on a repeated note, you can have a neighbor tone. So if I wanted to go to my neighbor's house or my neighbor to the left, that's a great way to embellish your melody. See, those are just neighbor tones. Literally just using neighbor tones, using the 3 same notes. The other one is passing tones. So if I wanted to go from C to E, we already did this a little bit. I can just pass through. I use 2 passing tones there. And the 2 notes that I was talking about that don't always sound so great are gonna be the 4th and the 7th. So if I'm playing this chord, that 4 is a little dissonant to it because it actually creates a suspension that wants to go to the 3rd. Sometimes it can sound nice, but I wouldn't ever like rest on that or land on the 4 specifically. Same with the B. The B sounds nice in some contexts. It adds a lot of color to our chord, but it's not a great melody note to sit on. And just a couple of tips when you're writing your melodies, make them as simple as possible. It has to be something that we can sing. So the human voice doesn't love doing jumps like that. It's jarring. And we also don't like doing stuff that's too fast. So with your melody, you can keep it really slow. Keep it really slow and in a tight space at first while you're starting out. Now we're gonna get into some more advanced tricks. So when I'm playing this, let's just play an octave in the left hand. We can start doing what we call arpeggios. So let's just use the 3 chord tones that we're used to using, C, E, G, and we can arpeggiate through this. And doing stuff like that makes you sound so advanced, but it's really not that hard at all. To start out, just practice playing through these. So let me show you an example of how an arpeggio might make our song sound a little nicer. And notice in the left hand, all I was doing was arpeggiating around my power chord. All right, the next one is one of my favorites, adding in 7th chords. So 7th chords are something that you're gonna have to go and learn about if you don't know how to play them. Just look up any 7th chord video and really understand how they work, because this is when music really starts to sound nice, when we add in that extra color. The easy explanation is to just count up 7 in your scale, and that's gonna be your 7th chord, and you just add it. It's one extra skip. The way you get into trouble with this though is it's not always that easy. There's different types of 7th chords. And so, for the most part, that works, but I would definitely recommend learning more about them on your own. All right, so let's play through that same progression, but this time we're just gonna add 7th chords. Notice that G7 sounds a little bit different. It's got a tritone in it. That's our dominant 7. It has a special function. So usually I'll actually omit those unless I'm trying to create a cadence. In this case, I'm not. Let's see what that would sound like if we're actually trying to improvise around this. Yeah, so the 7th chord. It's a really unique sound. Takes a little bit to get acquired to, but they sound awesome. And now we're just gonna talk very briefly about modulating chords. Everything that we've done so far has been in the white keys, but we can do whatever we want when we're improvising. So say I was going from a major C to my F like we've been doing. I don't have to go to F major. I could go to F minor if I wanted to. We're just keeping it the same F. What's the next chord that we went to? An A minor? What if we made it A major? So C major to F minor to A major. And then let's go to our G. So yeah, that A major to the G is not ideal. In the instance that I just played, that A major actually wants to go to D. So let's talk about modulating. So by accident, I just created a key change just when I was improvising. So I'm gonna teach you how to do that. Say we start in our C, we're in the key of C. Let's go back to the F major. Go to the A minor. What if we're tired of going to that G, which leads us back to the C? If we wanna change keys from this A, one of the most common ways of modulating is called secondary dominance. So say we wanted to go to the key of G, which is really a simple key change. So if we're in the key of C, we want to get to G. The 5th resolves to the 1. So from G, C, we want to go 5 above this G to get to our secondary dominant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So D major, which has an F sharp in it. This is a very new note for us. So if we're playing through this progression, C, F, A, right here is where we're gonna add in our secondary dominant chord, which is gonna take us to G. We're gonna add in this D with a, that's what's changing our key right there, that F sharp. And that F sharp leads us to G. Now we can be improvising in the key of G. And I'll show you that in real time. So just like that, we're in the key of G. One more time, the way I did that, secondary dominance. So in C, our dominant chord, the 5th chord of the sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G. G always leads to C, so then what would lead to G? We go up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D. D leads to G. So if we take a D major and G, now we're in G. Let's do another example. What's the next chord in the circle of fifths? A D. So for D, 5 notes up in the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is A. So all we would need to do in the same progression, actually, if we wanted to transpose to D, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, A minor, 2, 3, 4, A major, and now we're in D. So yeah, just sliding in a secondary dominant can take you wherever you want to go. And it's okay if that didn't make sense. That's actually a really heavy topic. So keep it simple for right now, whatever you're comfortable with improvising. And lastly, and most importantly, is always have fun when you're improvising. Just play something in the left hand. It can be anything, even just an octave. And then just play whatever you want. And just mess around until you find things that you like or you find things you don't like. Be as creative as possible. You can get to the point where you're playing that, different patterns. There's no right, there's no wrong. You could just be playing octaves in the right hand. Whatever you want to do. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Improvising is one of my favorite things to do while playing piano. I hope some of these things were able to help you do the same. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really like hearing from you guys and connecting with the other musicians on the platform. Thanks again for watching. Best of luck with your improvising, and I hope you have a great day.